The Classic Collectors Series. Video Rails, the world's leading producer of award-winning railroad documentaries, proudly presents the most prestigious collection of rare films ever released on videotape. This spectacular footage, shot by America's finest and best-known rail photographers, has never before been released to the public. Climb aboard with us on a sentimental journey back to the nostalgic days when steam was king and railroads were the lifeblood of America. You'll thrill to the sight and sounds of the legendary trains that made history as they carried the goods of our growing nation. From the smallest engines performing everyday tasks to the massive smoke-billowing giants of the rails, you will experience priceless moments of history. A premier collection of stunning rail photography that is sure to be treasured and enjoyed for years to come. Join with us now as we ride the rails that made history, as Video Rails presents the Classic Collectors Series. In the mid-1930s, the Union Pacific Railroad found itself in need of more powerful locomotives to handle the ever-growing train tonnages on the stiff grades of the Wyoming Division. A program of rebuilding and modernizing existing locomotives gave some relief for the slower drag freights, but the necessity of developing modern power for high-speed service was growing more evident. Under the direction of General Superintendent Burnett, Union Pacific's mechanical engineer Arthur Fetters and the American Locomotive Company began work in 1934 on design of a new locomotive with the 4664 wheel arrangement. In order to avoid the problems associated with compound articulated locomotives, the mechanical department designed this engine from the start as a simple articulated to help keep maintenance costs to a minimum. The first 14 Challenger-type locomotives arrived by the fall of 1936 and found immediate favor with both the operating and service crews alike. With a combination of power, speed, fuel economy, and low maintenance, they were the new milestone in steam development. The Union Pacific's newly formed Department of Research and Mechanical Standards had its hands full throughout the late 30s with a system-wide program of motive power rebuilding. But with the advent of the Challengers, Union Pacific's direction changed in favor of engines with even greater horsepower. As powerful as they were, the Challengers weren't enough to keep up with growing traffic as the nation pulled itself out of the Great Depression and a world war loomed on the horizon. And so it was early in 1940 that UP's President Jeffers directed Vice President Jobelman to come up with even larger engines to tame the grades of the Wasatch. A team comprising some of the brightest mechanical engineers in the nation put to work designing a super locomotive capable of taking a 3,800-ton train over the Wasatch unassisted. Throughout 1940 and the early part of 1941, work progressed on a new class of locomotives with a 4884 wheel arrangement. Track clearances, turntables, shops, and lightweight bridges all had to be modified to handle these new machines. While many of the principles learned from the Challengers were used, numerous design adjustments still had to be made in the process of creating the new locomotives in order to allow them to negotiate the curves and grades of their planned home. A name still needed to be chosen for these new kings of steam, and a thought was given to calling them Wasatch types, but that name lacked appeal, and the new 4000 class engines remained nameless until a machinist in the builder's shop scribbled a chalk mark on the smoke box. From that simple mark, a legend was born: Big Boy. Green River, Wyoming was originally planned as the home base for the Big Boys. As part of the program of extensive rebuilding, improvements were completed in preparation for their arrival. The facilities here have been enlarged and modernized. The old 100-foot turntable is gone, and a new steel turntable 135 feet long is in its place. Throughout World War II, the big boys used Green River as their home base, moving millions of tons of goods and thousands of troops to and from the war in the Pacific. Because of their general usefulness, they have also been pressed into service east of Green River and on Sherman Hill. With the need to keep them in service as much as possible, the shops at Green River bustle with activity. The crews here take pride in their machines, and keeping them running at peak performance is a top priority. The attention to detail begins as soon as a locomotive is brought into the service area. Thorough inspections are performed to detect any problems. Even routine tasks require a ladder. Keeping locomotives clean is important to the railroad. Not only does a clean locomotive look better, it is easier to work on. A little 060 shop switcher pushes a big boy through the wash racks for a 20-minute bath, where high-pressure jets direct a mixture of water and oakite to remove the soot and grime from miles of hard work. With most of the dirt washed away, some handwork is still required to complete the finishing touches. No part of the engine is overlooked by the crews, who know these machines like the backs of their hands. When a locomotive is sent for service, the fire is dumped from the firebox and the grates are cleaned and cooled. A coal-burning engine such as a big boy produces great quantities of ash, which must be removed and transported away. Keeping these locomotives running also requires tremendous quantities of coal and water. 28 tons of southern Wyoming semi-bituminous coal from the mines at Rock Springs and Hanna fill the coal bunker. 25,000 gallons of water are needed to fill the cavernous water tank. While these amounts may seem inexhaustible, stops must still be made en route for refueling on a normal 4-hour trip over the Wasatch. The large size of these tenders allows a relatively long run of 75 miles between stops on easy terrain or about 40 miles on steep grades. After the climb up the Wasatch, engine 4020 basks in the sun beneath Castle Rock. Engine 4005 is the only big boy ever converted to burn oil. Beginning in December 1946, as an experiment resulting from a coal strike, it served as a rolling test bed while the railroad searched for greater economy in operation. Unfortunately, the single burner that was installed didn't heat the firebox evenly, so after putting up with 14 months of poor fuel combustion, it was converted back to burn coal in March of 1948. The front drivers slip just a bit and then take hold as 4005 starts out of town with a particularly heavy eastbound freight. Wheel slippage is often a problem with articulateds, but the big boys hold the rails better than most. With steam escaping from every joint, 4005 slowly accelerates the train out of town. .4013 steams by with an extra consist of maintenance equipment. East of Green River, the terrain is fairly gentle, and the big boys are able to run at speed. They are as much at home flying across flatlands at 70 miles per hour as they are slugging it out at 12 miles per hour on stiff mountain grades. In places where the old 2880s would have been down to a crawl, the big boys can blast uphill at a good clip. Whether hauling merchandise or pulling a stock extra, the 4000s move it faster than any other locomotive. An eastbound freight adds some color to the horizon and to the barren brown landscape as it crests a hill near Medicine Bow on the way to Laramie. The only smoke signals left in this one-time Indian territory are from steam locomotives. Further east, near Rock River, a heavy manifest charges past in a flurry of smoke and steam. Another train rounds a curve in the afternoon, pulling hard to make Laramie by nightfall. "4003 blasts through a cut with a train of reefers bound for eastern markets. Laramie, Wyoming is a major point on the Union Pacific map. Here, considerable rebuilding has been necessary over the years to keep up with the growing demands of ever larger steam locomotives. The 650-ton coaling station has been in service since 1917. A 5 million-gallon water station was built in 1928, reflecting the dry climate of the area. The turntable at Laramie is a full 135 feet long and was completed early in 1941 in anticipation of the arrival of the big boys. There is constant activity in the shops and around the yards. The unending motion is all a part of keeping the parade of trains rolling over the hill. Eastward out of Laramie, the struggle up Sherman Hill begins, climbing a grade as steep as 1.5% on the way to the summit, 25 miles and almost 1,000 feet of elevation away. At Red Butte, the 4017 races down Sherman Hill, heading west to Laramie at about 60 miles per hour. Snaking through the S-curve near Calores, the 4003 billows smoke into the crisp, thin air at 7,600 feet elevation. Once over the summit, most of the smoke comes from heated brake chutes as the train slows downhill. Rolling into the yards, there is little time to stop for rest. Precious cargoes must keep moving to their destinations. The windows rattle in the little wooden station at Brighton, Colorado, as 4023 thunders past with a heavy freight from Denver. As the last major outpost before the climb up the eastern side of Sherman Hill, Cheyenne, Wyoming has become the heart of Union Pacific Steam. The massive yards and engine servicing facilities are equipped to quickly and efficiently perform any task required. The 48-stall roundhouse and complete engine shops can service everything from small switchers to 1.25-pound big boys. The 126-foot turntable will just barely accommodate the 132-foot length of a big boy, with the locomotive overhanging 3 feet on either end. The shops at Cheyenne had to be enlarged to match the proportions of the big boys. When the 4000s were built, they set many records that still stand. Inch and 3/8 steel boilerplate forms a boiler almost 9 feet in diameter. An average living room could fit inside the 20-foot-long firebox. The 68-inch drivers, combined with exceptionally well-balanced running gear, allow a top speed of over 80 miles an hour. 300 pounds of steam pressure produce over 6,000 horsepower. At the servicing tracks, water for steam is drawn from the 350,000-gallon water tank. The 650-ton coaling tower at Cheyenne can service as many as 5 locomotives at one time. With a steam engine's tender capable of taking more than 20 tons of coal, hopper cars must be spotted regularly at the coal conveyor to keep the tower well supplied. Cheyenne is the home for the big boys like number 4017. Although they have clearance over much of the main line, the 4884s are seldom seen east of here. They do run occasionally to North Platte, but their tremendous strength is used mainly on the hill. Passing through turnouts in the yard, it is easy to see where the big boy's articulation comes into play to enable the long wheelbase to negotiate sharp turns. Even with this, the extreme boiler length necessitated considerable track realignment work, including increased track spacing to avoid colliding with trains on adjacent tracks. The running boards were also reduced in width from the original 20 inches to 15 inches to give extra clearance on curves. Engine 4017 heads a long string of empty refrigerator cars back to Western fruit producers. The westbound passes Tower A and the Colorado and Southern Overpass on its way out of town. Following shortly after is the 4018. "4006 charges out of town in a spectacular show of smoke and steam. The 4019 already has its train rolling at a good clip as it leaves Cheyenne's yards and heads for Laramie. Another big boy, the 4011, takes up the slack and drags an almost endless westbound out of Cheyenne. In the cab, the engineer checks air brake pressure and notches out the throttle to put over 9 million pounds of train into motion. Train orders are picked up on the fly from the tower man. A diesel-powered city streamliner rolls into Cheyenne. The engineer keeps a firm hand on the throttle and eyes on the track ahead as the train gathers momentum on the east side of Sherman Hill. Even with the might of a big boy, a full throttle run is needed to handle the stiff grade ahead. Near Otto, another westbound is down to about 20 miles an hour with 4,100 tons. At Granite, the grade has increased to more than 1.5%. On the Harriman line near MK, the grade is easier. Approaching Dale, a westbound manifest charges by. At Dale, Track 3 comes in from the southeast, bypassing the better-known summit at Sherman. Although this route has more curves, it also has an easier climb with less than a 1% grade. A solid train of refrigerator cars speeds east past the famous rock outcropping above Dale Creek before reaching the crest at Sherman. Engine 4020 heads west with 4,000 tons of manifest. Number 4006 comes out of the bore at Hermosa, the only tunnel on the line over Sherman Hill. Gas turbine 56 leads a big boy into the tunnel as the giants of two eras work together. The railroad's need to maintain fast schedules often lead to interesting power combinations. A single F3 diesel unit is dwarfed by the big boy it is helping at Farrell. It would take at least 4 of these 1,500 horsepower diesels to equal the strength of one big boy. Even though they don't put as much power in a single unit, the diesel's easy maintenance and low water demand are catching on with management, and the steam locomotive's days are numbered. 2.5 million pounds of big boys shake the earth as they thunder by. Few sights could be more impressive than double-headed big boys on Sherman Hill, but it is a rare occasion when a train actually requires the muscle of two 4884s. The most common reason for double-heading big boys westbound is to transfer extra engines back to the other side of the hill. Since the eastbound grade more often requires double headers, keeping the power balanced is a never-ending job. A pair of 4,000 class engines power their heavy manifest along the rolling terrain of Sherman Hill. "4013 struggles against the driving snow at Cheyenne. A big boy blasts through the cut and across the fill at Spear in a syncopated symphony of steam more grand than any musical composition. Everything seems right for the moment. Though their lifetime spans less than 2 decades, the big boys have left their mark on history just as sure as their smoke could be seen across the hills of Wyoming. No diesel could make the earth shake or the mountains tremble like the mighty big boys. Their mournful whistles and their thundering exhausts proclaim them the titans of the Wasatch. Now their echoes are silent, but their memories live on, for they were truly the giants of the rails.